What is the history of kernel spelling? Imagine a word that looks like it should be pronounced one way but is actually said quite differently. That's the case with the word kernel. Its spelling and pronunciation tell a story of language changes over centuries. The word started in Italy with colonnello, meaning a leader of a small column of soldiers. The Italian word comes from colonna, which means column, and columna in Latin also meant pillar or column. When the word moved into France, it became coronal, and a sound change called dissimilation happened. This is when similar sounds in a word change to become less alike. In this case, the L sound in colonnello shifted to an R sound, turning it into coronal. When English speakers borrowed the word in the 1500s, they first used the French spelling coronal and pronounced it as coronal with the R sound. But later in the same century, scholars influenced by Italian military books started spelling it closer to the original Italian colonnello, which became kernel. Despite the spelling change, the pronunciation stayed the same as kernel, which sounds like the nut. This is because the pronunciation was influenced by the French form, which kept the R sound. So the spelling kernel actually reflects the Italian root, while the way we say it, kernel, comes from the French pronunciation. Over time, the spelling stayed the same, but the pronunciation shifted, leading to this odd mismatch. This mix-up happened because the word traveled through different languages and experienced sound changes along the way. To sum up, kernel comes from the Italian colonnello, meaning a small column leader. The French changed the sound to coronal, and when English adopted it, the spelling was influenced by the Italian, but the pronunciation stuck with the French version. This is why we spell it one way and say it another. It's a perfect example of how language history can create peculiar spelling and pronunciation differences that can puzzle even native speakers. For example, you might say, "The colonel commanded his troops with great skill during the battle." This shows how the spelling hints at its history, even if the pronunciation is quite different. Understanding this story helps explain why some words in English look strange but have fascinating origins.